Hi, I'm John Tarkoff. I'm the Chief Customer Officer for Blue Prism, and welcome to a great interview this morning with Sabi Roy, who's in charge of artificial intelligence and cognitive RPA for Accenture, one of our big partners, one of our best partners. So welcome, Sabi.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me over here. This partnership has proven so far to be extremely relevant in the post-digital era, as we call it. So, very excited to be here and very excited about this entire relationship and partnership and the impact that we are delivering in the market.
So when you look at the FS industry today, right, and you think about the customers that you guys have been very successful at helping put together their digital, their automation strategies, what's your view of where we're going in the next few years? What are the things that you're hearing from your customers?
At Accenture, we believe that we are at a turning point in the society. Innovation has accelerated by a significant way in the last 3 years because of emerging technologies, and Blue Prism is at the heart of it, right? For what the product offers. There are three things which has really happened in the space of technology over the past few years. Number one, technology has become largely democratized.
Right.
Number two, the barrier to entry has really gone down.
Sure.
And number three, integration is no longer a problem. The playing ground is becoming more and more level. So therefore, it is interesting to see the focus shifting towards how you adopt them and how you think about the capability, which is around people, skill, the communication, the operating model, and all those good things as to how you set yourself for success from a foundation perspective, and also how you solve for scale, which is a big problem in the industry, both from a capability as well as from a technology standpoint.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And if you were to then shift the focus towards how, and to your point, how relevant is, let's say, artificial intelligence or digital automation for financial services industry, I think it's really in the sweet spot. Many of our engagements are really about how we are using these technologies and these capabilities with all the other foundational aspects to A, deliver frictionless customer experience, B, help with improving sales, client retention, and lastly, how you can strengthen your compliance and control posture. And to be honest with you, we are seeing the use cases across this entire spectrum of how you would see financial services industry end to end. So extremely relevant and extremely exciting times for digital automation, AI, robotics in context of financial services.
My experience has been, being a former customer of Blue Prism and being in a major financial institution in the US, it wasn't necessarily in the formal conversation around strategy. It was an enabler to a strategy versus a part of the strategy. How is that working now as far as that becoming more of a mainstream part of the conversation, those formal objective settings and building that into strategy?
The industry has come to realize that unless you drive this top down, right, it's not going to work. It is not a silver bullet. It needs to be part of your DNA. It needs to be part of your ecosystem, and it needs to be a part of your intent, your vision, and how you kind of build this as overall capability on the back of the strategy that you have for the next 5 years or whatever duration. One of the things which is extremely relevant in the market today is the topic and the theme of hyper-personalization. And this is being delivered almost on a real-time basis today.
Right.
In this post-digital era, we almost have our own realities, right? This is our digital reality. And within that reality, every moment, is presenting an opportunity for a business or a product or a service line to convert that into a value which is relevant and contextually important for the individual at that given point in time.
Right.
For a bank in the Middle East, we have come together helping them implement conversational AI across their omni-channel platform, across their multiple channels. And that was to essentially help drive self-serve. That's one side of it.
Right.
But if you move to the other spectrum of how digital automation, AI, intelligent automation, cognitive capabilities are helping across financial products and services. For an Irish bank, we are using machine learning for micro segmentation to recommend very personalized and relevant, products, mortgage products, to the customers. Now, these are capabilities, these are opportunities which are being almost created on the back of these capabilities and what they have to offer. While in some use cases there's emphasis on one capability over the other, more and more that we are learning is these technologies and these capabilities, they work better when they come together versus just being one. Right. And especially technologies like the one offered by Blue Prism and also some of the workflow capabilities, which kind of act as the orchestrator to and help really accelerate, bring some of these and other modern technologies from an AI perspective to accelerate in an environment which is highly legacy driven. Everything that we're talking about here is extremely disruptive in some ways. And more so when you're talking in the context of financial services, which is highly regulated, highly sensitive. So unless some of these adoptions are part of your strategy, like I said, the biggest problem in the industry has been around scaling. You will never solve for scaling unless it's part of your strategy and it's being driven top down.
Our companies have thousands of customers, right? And we're very large in our deployments together in financial services. And I know on our research that we do, and it'd be interesting seeing your perspective, we're looking for those, those 3 or 4 kind of reasons that seem to continually come up. You talked about scaling. When you think about the things that you hear from your customers or what your teams are telling you, and you build strategies and solutions to help overcome those barriers, what are the 2 or 3 big ones that you guys are hearing right now?
I think the dream was, rightly or wrongly, that some kind of a silver bullet and digital automation is going to come and fix everything for you, right? Where they talk about
and it's
AI.
fast, easy and cheap.
Yeah, exactly. And number of organizations have had a false start. Number of organizations have had a humble start, but they haven't been able to take it beyond a certain scale. It is less probably about the technology, right?
Agreed.
It is really more about a number of things, starting with, what's your vision? And to the earlier point that you're making, right? What's your intent? These are change programs which have got quite radical impact on a number of facets of the business and the enterprise, right? So that's important. Having a focus on skilling your people for the post-digital era so that they are motivated to be part of that journey and help and support this change is extremely important. You need to think about what needs to be your operating model, considering your current enterprise structure, organizational structure, any legacy reasons that you need to consider, and where you want to go. The other thing which is quite important here is to think about process before you think about technology. This is not about throwing technology at a problem, right? You need to think about a process, because if you automate a broken process, it's an automated broken process, right? And many a times when you go upstream in the customer journey or the process journey, you see that if you do something upstream, there's a knock-on effect downstream to the extent of this process not even needing to exist, right?
Correct.
So you have to make these considerations to make sure that at the end of the day, the choices that you're making helps you reduce the technical debt of the decision. Because like I said, this will be more about life cycle management eventually. Like I said earlier, it's about the ecosystem, right?
Sure.
No one technology is going to help you. The thing that I like about Blue Prism in some context in this context is it really helps you build modular solutions, right?
Sure.
And if you think about more broadly from a purist technology perspective, today we have got modern architectural patterns like microservices-based architecture, even serverless architectures, and then you have got obviously APIs have been there for a while now. So all of this coming together are some core considerations from a design, engineering, and architectural railguard perspective. And I think the last thing, and probably one of the most important thing as well, is your business case consideration. As you start putting your business cases together, you need to think about your priorities, and you need to think about some of those elements which probably as a unit may not make a business case, but is going to be a core part of your strategic investment. So you need to think about it as a portfolio rather than an individual component. So those are, I think, some of the macro level considerations for you to make sure that you're avoiding some of the pitfalls and really allows you to scale.
Yeah. And I think, again, you touched on maturity, and that kind of leads us to our next question. When you think about that future state, where we're going, or next couple of curves down the road, how do you see that from an Accenture point of view? How do you see it with Accenture Blue Prism partnership point of view as well?
This particular partnership has got great opportunity in front of us in terms of making that real impact in the post-digital era. The expectations are only increasing from the society more broadly, but also from our customers and clients, and also internally from our employees. Because the context of the discussion here is quite broad, it is just not a technology. We are talking about ecosystem of
Correct.
capabilities, technologies like RPA and artificial intelligence, more broadly speaking, NLP, NLU, machine learning. More importantly, where things become a little bit more interesting is deep learning, where you are going into neural nets. And the good thing and the bad thing about neural nets is obviously there's a trade-off question that comes into play, right? So there's accuracy, need for accuracy versus how you deal with being black box,
Right.
or being gray box, which is one of the aspects of neural nets and deep learning that you have to be aware of. It is very important for you to appreciate data and the tenets of data in terms of data provenance, data integrity, and data lineage. You need to start thinking about having a data intelligence practice so that you are doing this in a responsible manner, and as we call it, responsible AI. It is quite intuitive at times, looking at some of the opportunities within financial services. More specifically, 80% of the data is unstructured.
Right.
And if you were to look back in the last 3 years, at least from my personal experience, I would say 80 to 90% of the work that we did in the space of intelligent automation was non-straight through. And a major component of that was dealing with this unstructured data. But today, the capabilities which are there in the form of computer vision, natural language processing, combined with robotics and having a fabric of orchestration layer through workflow, it's a very, very compelling, I would say, ecosystem of capabilities which are solving or has potential to solve a number of problems which we couldn't deal with yesterday. And combine that with some of the modern technologies that we're talking about, or at least approaches from a microservices perspective and APIs standpoint, I think it's a very powerful time in the industry. We just have to be careful and help our customers undertake this in a very responsible and controlled manner, so that it allows them to scale in a very, very confident fashion when it comes to financial services.
The things that you're seeing out there, exactly what we lived, over the last 3 or 4 years before I joined Blue Prism. And I think, again, the discussions we have with people now isn't just about buying, a Blue Prism platform. It's what problems are you trying to solve for here? Because again, all those things you said, are absolutely going to play into what's necessary for you to really accomplish what you vision in your head, but may not be able to articulate that in a way that makes sense that you can actually deliver on that.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the interaction that our teams are having these days is exactly around some of these capabilities and platforms and how we can bring them together to then present it in a meaningful way, in a contextual way.
And that certainly helps open the doors too, because if they have something that they can readily apply, that they can use because it's been used somewhere else, and you can reuse it in another client, that's the things that they're looking for. That's what we hear all the time. Can you bring me a solution I can use now?
And it's almost, like you said, polymorphism is not a new concept, right? Polymorphism has been there
for a long time.
Since my engineering days, we have read it, right? Abstraction, inheritance.
Right.
And so we are not talking new here, right? It's just that we are talking complex.
Correct.
But we need to go back to the basics and just make sure that, like you said, we are kind of bringing this to the table and make it happen. And it is just not about the capability reusability. It is also about the opportunity usability.
Sure.
So as you start looking at, as you run the discoveries and as you run your diagnostics to identify what's the end-to-end opportunity and therefore define what the strategy needs to be in terms of your approach, you need to think about some of the opportunity themes, right? Whether they are reconciliations, whether they are reporting, whether they are exception management. And as you would see cutting across divisions, the systems are very similar. And therefore, that can then drive some of the polymorphism and abstraction concepts in a bit more strategic way rather than looking at it in a siloed way. And like I said, you never know what's the right answer because every organization is set up in its own way, and you got to respect and appreciate that. But as long as we have these principles in our mind, once we get there, we would exactly know how to A, guide our clients, B, work with them, and make sure that we set up the capability and the thought leadership so that everything else then kind of flows in that pattern. And that is most important.
I've been in banking a very, very long time, and everybody's always trying to think about what's the next big game changer for financial services. Whether it's insurance, the cap markets, traditional banking, micro banking, those types of things. When you're thinking about it, whether it's a personal view, whether it's a POV for Accenture, what do you think about that? What are you hearing? What are your feelings on like 2 or 3 of the big game changers that you see are coming? I think we can all agree that automation definitely is going to be digitization. Automation is going to be a game changer. Is there anything specifically in that, or is there something else coming in that will affect the way that the financial services markets are operating in the next 5 years?
Obviously, like you said, digital automation, cognitive capabilities, and sticking to that theme, I personally believe, and my background is engineering and computer science. So my association with artificial intelligence goes back to my engineering days, and they used to feel and look very different at the time versus how it looks and feels today. And I think what has really happened in the last, I would say, 5 years or so, there's a massive uplift in capability because of algorithmic innovation. Number one. Number two, cloud computing and optimization of infrastructure cost has made things really, really affordable. The potential where in terms of use cases and how much can be done with AI on the back of some of the opportunities which are still hidden from a neural network capability standpoint. Sure. I think the industry is still dabbling with how to go about this in a secure and responsible way, to my other points around data veracity and being transparent, having a glass box system in place versus a black box or a gray box. So I think neural network is a great potential, which is still, I would say, a bit underplayed at this point in time, but the industry will work out, as it has always, to tap into that opportunity. That's number one in terms of how much you can push the envelope in terms of the use cases from accuracy and speed perspective, right? So that is, from AI perspective, I think is quite exciting for me to keep observing and contribute from our research and development perspective. Spend a lot of time with yourselves and other product companies to kind of see how we can continue to make that difference. I think the other is hyper-personalization, something that we spoke about, right? And this is not going to go away. There are a number of use cases which have emerged, and we will always be surprised by the type of use cases that we will see in this space. So I think that hyper-personalization, the opportunity that comes with it, and the digital capabilities, being out there to make it more and more real-time experientially is a massive opportunity for financial services. Because as financial services started undertaking some of these or adopting some of these technologies, the main focus has been cost reduction. Right. I think it is not pivoting towards how we can use these capabilities to make it more customer facing, how we can deliver more frictionless customer experience, and how we can make this more available real time and provide a lot more personalized service to individual customers versus customer bases or groups of customers, which has been the method or the approach in the past, right? So I think it's a pivotal point.
We're seeing customers be very successful when they're presented with that solution out of the box that they can readily implement because, look, they're under pressure to deliver, right? They need to see results, and then those results beget other results. And then the next thing you know, they're wanting to know, well, how can I learn this, do this on my own? And so, everybody wins. And that's really what we're looking for, between our partnership. And at the end of the day, we're here to do this because we're trying to take care of our customers.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think is really important.